Good evening and welcome back to 31 Horror Nights. It's October 23rd and tonight's movie is Hell House LLC 2, The Abaddon Hotel. I briefly mentioned in my caveat review that there were 3 movies on the docket that were all directed by the same person. It is the 3 sequels to Hell House LLC. There's actually a 4th sequel that is so recent it's not even on streaming yet, so I suppose that's just gonna have to wait till next year. At least unless the movies 2, 3, and 4 are so bad I just don't want to bother, but I kind of doubt that's going to be the case because the first movie, Hell House LLC, is great. I watched it on my first ever Horror Nights in 2017, and I've seen it, I think, 3 times since then, one of which being very recently, and it is always just as good as I remember it. The scares are great, the story was great, it was a wonderful example of what the found footage medium is capable of. And the location, the actual Abaddon Hotel, even though that's not called that in real life, but it is a haunted house attraction, is amazing. I loved that setting. Generally, when a beloved movie suddenly becomes a franchise, it kind of just feels like there's a studio trying to milk this IP for all it's worth for a few years, and the quality keeps going down. That happened with the Paranormal Activity movies and the Saw movies. But this is different. 1, it's an indie film. They're all indie films. 2, they're all directed by the same person. And 3, it was originally meant to be a trilogy. The plot seems to involve a team of investigative journalists who decide to figure out what's really going on at the Abaddon Hotel. I really hope this isn't just a rehash like Smile 2 from yesterday. And I really hope it doesn't become immediately apparent that the success and quality of Hell House LLC was just kind of a fluke because the next 2 days is going to be watching the next 2 movies. But I have more reason than I normally would to believe that that's not going to be the case. Let me go check it out. Okay, the Hell House LLC franchise didn't exactly put its best foot forward with the first sequel. It wasn't like it got off on the wrong foot, but there are probably better feet. Hell House LLC 2 is without any doubt inferior to the first movie. The first movie was really, really great. This is like, okay. I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. This movie is a little bit of a rehash of the first film, not to the same level of Smile 2, but it does expand upon the Hell House LLC cinematic universe. We get more lore. And even though it's not nearly as strong as the first movie, I could still see those like brilliant moments that were a lot more common in the first film. This movie has 2 main characters. First is Jessica Fox, who's like this, I'd say investigative reporter, but she's like a blogger. And Mitchell Kavanaugh, who's the only survivor of the documentary that was the first movie. Because the whole thing was framed as a documentary made by a group of 3 people, and it ended with 2 of the documentarians, like the main host and one of the camera guys, going to the Abaddon Hotel and getting attacked. One thing that they keep cutting to throughout the movie is like this local news interview with that survivor, Mitchell, an official from the city, and a proclaimed medium. And they bicker and argue about the documentary, the first movie, saying that it was probably just a hoax to drum up hype. But even if it was, even if they did fake the disappearance of 2 people for that movie, there still were 15 other people who either died or disappeared at this place in one night. And there were 2 new cases, each like individual teenagers who went missing and were last seen at the Abaddon Hotel. There's video footage. You'd think eventually like the FBI would get involved or something, but I guess that didn't happen. And Jessica reaches out to Mitchell after this interview is put on air because she has information that she thinks could lead to answers. One thing that I really appreciated about the first movie, and something that gave it a lot of replay value, is that there's a lot of these like blink and you'll miss it moments. There will be something hidden on screen that they don't draw attention to but is there if you look closely. It rewards you for paying attention. And this movie continued that. In one of the tapes of one of the teenagers going missing in the Abaddon Hotel, he walks briefly through the kitchen and you can see one of those shadow cultists standing in the corner. But when he like moves around a bit more, like maneuvering through the room, he briefly points the camera back to that corner and the shadow figure is gone. I think the biggest difference between the first film and this one is that Hell House LLC was a horror movie first. Its main focus was on scares. This movie's a lot more story-driven, and the mileage you get out of this story is kind of mixed. A lot of the fear from the first movie was fear of the unknown. You didn't really know exactly what was going on, and this movie seeks to explain it. In fact, it goes into great detail. And while some of the revelations were really cool, other ones felt a bit much. And before I go into any specifics, let me just wrap up the non-spoiler part of this. If you really liked the first movie, I would say check this out. It's not like so bad it makes the first movie look bad or anything like that. It's just not nearly as good. However, I am interested to see what's going to happen in the next movie because now everything's on the table. The stage is set. I just want to see where it goes from here. And now I want to go into some spoilers. One thing that I was able to put together pretty quickly is that there's something about the Abaddon Hotel that draws people in. There are things that compel people to go to this place where everybody who goes there dies. The reason why Jessica wanted to go there is because she got an anonymous tip that there is information in the basement that could lead to answers about what happened. Not just to all the patrons who died in that opening night, but also the members of the Hell House crew and the documentary people. And there is. But by the time they actually collect it, they already fell into the trap. There's obviously something at this location that needs sacrifices, human sacrifices. But I would never have been able to guess just how deep this rabbit hole goes. In fact, I would make the argument it probably goes a little too deep. Not only did it explain things that I thought were better left to the imagination, it explained things I didn't even think warranted some sort of deeper meaning. I was under the impression that the Hell House team decided to do this thing with the Abaddon Hotel because they wanted to have a successful haunted house and they were kind of on hard financial times. But it turns out those hard times were brought on because Alex literally bought the hotel from some random person and now they're in debt. And he was a puppet for the hotel the entire time. Not just him, Mac, the other leader guy. He convinced that one person to stay the night before and it was all part of the big plan. It kind of felt like that one part of Smiling Friends where the landlord guy was like, yes, everything that happened to you in the past 24 hours was part of my master plan. I kind of feel like they took that element of it a bit too far, but there were some really good reveals as well. It confirmed what I suspected after watching the first movie, which was that all the supernatural events at the hotel were due to the original owner and his satanic cult, who even beyond the grave want to make more sacrifices. And definitely the biggest twist in this movie is revealed almost at the very end. It's footage from after that news interview is done recording, and a PA goes up to the host lady and says, "We got a call from that guy from the city. He wanted to apologize for not being able to show up today." And the news anchor lady is obviously very confused because he was there the whole time. And it's revealed that the man who we thought was that guy from the city was actually Andrew Tully's ghost, the original owner of the Abaddon Hotel and the cult leader. It wasn't just the first movie. All the events in this movie, too, were set in motion by Andrew Tully in order to get more people at the Abaddon Hotel. And it made me realize that a lot of the aspects of the story that I thought were really silly actually made more sense with this reveal. There's a reason why there's always one survivor. They need someone to spread the story further. They need more people curious. And I'm sure that also extends to the local police's oddly lax nature about the many people disappearing and dying at this place. There are probably cult members in all sorts of positions of authority in this area. And the plan still isn't over. They still need more people. So they send out Jessica, who is in their clutches, to bring even more people into the Abaddon Hotel. And it's not just that. Probably the coolest reveal in the entire movie is one of the really subtle ones. At the beginning, there's text saying that this entire documentary is compiled and edited by Russell Wynn. And almost at the end of the movie, you briefly see the guest list at the Abaddon Hotel, and the bottom name on that list is Russell Wynn, implying that he is a cult member as well, making this documentary to make more people come to the Abaddon Hotel. There were some very good scares in this movie, not nearly as many as the first film, but there were a couple. At the very end of the converted Jessica's interview with the police, someone walks in front of the camera, and when the shadow leaves the frame, suddenly her face is all bloody and she's making the smile demon face, and then when they go back, suddenly she's back to normal again. And there's a point in the third act where Mitchell is walking around the Abaddon Hotel, and he just sees Sarah sitting there on the floor talking on the phone with her mom. And based on the things that she's saying, it sounds like it's before the opening night. And she sees him. She acknowledges him. She doesn't even seem surprised. But as he's walking by, her words suddenly become a lot scarier and her voice gets lowered down in pitch, which I personally don't think helped very much, and then he turns around and suddenly she's in like bloody demon makeup. Overall, while I wouldn't say that Hell House LLC 2 is a bad sequel, it definitely isn't as good as the first movie. The horror is not as good, or at least the good moments aren't as common. The characters aren't quite as good, and it's a lot more narrative focused, and the narrative is kind of a mixed bag. I still find it hard to believe that Stephen Cognetti intended for this to be a trilogy from the beginning, because the first movie very much felt like this is a self-contained movie, it's over, we're done. And the second movie seems like it's trying to sort of undo that and be like, no, we can make a franchise out of this. But despite my problems with the second movie, I am very interested to see how this all plays out. And I'm not going to have to wait long, I'm watching the next movie tomorrow. So I'll see you then.